Hi, it's Rebecca here from Precious Pages Papercraft, and I'm sharing a layout today that I have created this weekend just for a bit of fun really. It's been a while since I've sort of made it just for fun layout. I'm one of a few design teams, so a lot of my scrappy work I create for design teams. So it was nice to have a bit of a play this weekend. I've bought some bits recently from Papermaze from the Cocoa Vanilla Studio These Days collection. I ummed and ahed over this collection for ages and decided it was just too similar to Daydream for me, so I didn't bother buying it. But I've had an idea in my head for a layout and it's been playing on my mind and bugging me, and the idea hasn't gone away, and I needed the bits from These Days to make it work. So I decided to head on over to Papermaze and buy a few bits from the collection. And the main thing I needed for this layout was this pattern paper that's got all those frames on it. So I bought myself a sheet of that. I got a couple of other sheets as well. You can't just buy one sheet, can you? So I bought a few sheets. And my idea was to kind of have a line of frames across the centre, getting smaller as you get out to the edges. And I wanted the two larger ones in the middle backed with photos. And then I wanted to create a couple of sequin shaker pockets with some of them. So I've backed two photos there. You can see I've got my little boy in the middle of a wild meadow with loads of wildflowers behind him. And then I'm going to make two slightly smaller frames into shaker pockets filled with sequins from Spiegelmum scraps. I'm currently turning the wrong frame into a shaker pocket. It wasn't until I stuck it down next to the other one that I realised it was the wrong one. I'd used a smaller square one instead of the sort of medium-sized rectangle one. So I've peeled that back off, started again. So I'm going to fill these two with the, I think it's called Maggie's Dream sequin mix from Spiegelmum, and it works perfectly with this collection. It's got kind of hints of green, some yellow, some light pinks, and I kind of like that peachy tone, that corally peach tone that's quite heavy in this collection. So it was perfect for this layout. So I'm going to turn these two into shaker pockets. So I've started off by backing them with vellum, and I'm just using double-sided tape as opposed to wet glue. Sorry, not vellum, what am I thinking? It's acetate. I've backed them with double-sided tape. I didn't use wet glue because I've found that I'm a bit heavy-handed with it and it all kind of oozes out onto my acetate and then it just looks sticky and messy. So I've gone with double-sided tape instead. And then the two smaller frames here, I'm going to back with another patterned paper from the collection. So I love this paper. I've used it once before for a layout for Spiegelmum scraps, and I've had to buy another sheet because I just love it. So I'm going to back those two smaller squares with those, and then I can embellish on top of those. So back to my shaker pockets. I've got my acetate in place on the back there, and I'm now adding some Big Mama foam tape. This is from Spiegelmum scraps and it's perfect for making shaker pockets. So I'm just getting some of that stuck, and this is what will create that kind of pocket or well for the sequins to sit on. And because it's quite dimensional, I'll back it and then my sequins will have space to move. So this stuff's really, really sticky and I always struggle with my nails to peel the backing off, but it is fab for making shaker pockets. So peel the backs off, and then I'm going to get some sequins in there. I've decided to tip it out onto my page first because I wanted a mix of all the colours, and I could see in the packet all my green ones were near the top and all the peachy ones were near the bottom. So I've tipped the whole thing out, otherwise I'd have just kind of sprinkled a few straight into those frames. But it didn't work that way, so I've poured them out on my page, and I'm just pinching a few and bringing them in, trying to get kind of a variety of the colours there. And like I said, this mix is just perfect for this collection. All the colours match really, really well. And then once those are filled, I'm going to use some more of that ombre pattern paper on the back there. And I've gone for the kind of greeny yellow section of that paper because I've gone for the orangey pinky reddish one for the outside frames. I just wanted a bit of variation. And the photos that I'm using, the flowers in the back are all different shades of kind of yellows and reds with sort of green stems obviously, but you've got some sweet corn growing or sunflowers, I can't remember what it was now, in the background to bring some green in. So I wanted to try and get all of those shades into the pattern papers that I've used as well. And I'm kind of going to have them sitting across the middle of my page like so. I'm going to raise the photos up on foam pads because I want them to sit on top of my shaker pockets, and they are now quite dimensional because of that foam tape. So I actually end up adding another layer of foam behind those to raise them up just slightly more than those shaker pockets. So I also bought the butterfly pattern paper. I just couldn't resist. I think I've bought this from every CVS collection they've ever released. It's got butterflies. And it was another thing that was kind of nagging at me that I hadn't bought this collection and I really wanted the butterfly paper. So another reason why I ended up going to buy Papermaze to get some more. But as you can see, I've fussy cut a load of those and I'm just trying to arrange them on my page. I'm going to have some kind of cascading down the centre of the page there through my photos. And the title I've pulled out, I've got Sweet Beautiful Times. That is actually from the These Days. No, it's not. It's from Daydream collection. There wasn't any titles or anything with These Days apart from the stickers that I didn't really like and didn't buy, so I've had to go back to Daydream for my title, and I loved that Sweet Beautiful Times. It was a lovely little day out. Me and my little boy went to a sunflower field. It's a farm quite close to us up in Milton Keynes, and they do pumpkins for Halloween, and then they do sunflowers, and I think they do sweet corn as well. And they've got fields and meadows of wildflowers, and it's beautiful. So we got back off our holiday, and I knew that we only had a week or two until he started big school full time. So I made the most of that time trying to have a few little days out with him, and this was one of them. So I really loved that title. So as you saw, I've got all my frames kind of stuck together now so that I can move them on and off in one piece. And that's because I'm adding some mixed media to my background, and it's always easier to just be able to bring everything back in together in one go to see if I'm happy with my mixed media. So I've pulled out my gelatos. I don't use these anywhere near enough. I just always forget I've got them really. But I've pulled out some colours that match this collection, and I'm just applying them on some packaging, watering that down, and then I'm applying it to my background cardstock with some, with a brayer. I haven't used gesso or anything. I wasn't really sure how this was gonna turn out. I don't think I've ever used a brayer with gelatos before, but I thought I'd give it a go. It was a kind of a just for fun layout. As I've said, it was me just having a play, having a bit of kind of therapy time. And it actually worked really well. Obviously, once the ink has hit the page, it didn't move around too much without the gesso, but it moved around enough and I was quite happy with it. So I've pulled out some kind of peachy tones, some greens, some blues, and then I was trying to make that coral colour, but I went a bit too heavy on the darker sort of pink shade, so I've had to bring in some more of that peachy shade. I'm just kind of mixing a little bit of that back in, and it actually ended up making the perfect colour. On the page at the moment it is starting to look a bit muddy and awful really, if I'm honest, but once I've brought my frames back in and my title and obviously the embellishments, you can't see a lot of it. It doesn't look anywhere near as muddy and messy as it does here, so I am happy with it in the end once everything is kind of back on and in place. But it's just a case of building that up in several layers and until I'm happy with it really. And I always find that with mixed media, it's a bit trial and error, and I just keep working on things until I'm happy with them. So I've kind of reached a stage now where I'm happy with that. There's a little bit showing around the edges. You've got that bit down the centre of the page that will sit behind my title and the butterflies. I don't want to go too mad with any more. I did contemplate some splatters, but I feel like I always do splatters. It's something that I absolutely love on layouts, but I do it on every single layout. So I thought I wouldn't do it on this one. I thought I'd try and mix it up a bit and do something slightly different. So yeah, no splatters. And there's not an awful lot of distressed edges actually. I'm just watching myself distress these flowers. I generally distress the edges on everything. I tried not to do it too much on this page. I haven't distressed those frames at all, which is really unlike me because normally that's the kind of thing I would. But I am distressing these flowers because I want that added texture that it gives them. And I'm cutting the white border off. I felt like it was a bit too wide for this layout, and I didn't want the green leaves on it either. I just wanted the flowers. So I've cut that border off, and I'm just using the edge of the scissor blade there to distress those so I can kind of turn them up a bit. And then I'm going to layer those flowers on top of each other and have them going diagonally through my photos there. So we're kind of getting there really, it's coming together quite nicely. I'm going to go ahead and add, like I said, a second layer of foam behind those photos, just to, because obviously the shaker pockets are quite deep, I needed to raise it up to the same level on the back so that it had kind of surface area to hold on the background. So I've added that second layer of foam, and then I'm just using double-sided tape to stick that down. Didn't want to use wet glue because I've got that mixed media and I wasn't sure how well that would hold, but double-sided tape is fab stuff and I find it holds on most things. And then I'm using some of that craft foam just behind my title there to raise that up, just to bring in a bit of dimension to the page. I'm not really a massive fan of sticking things down flat, so I generally do tend to use foam behind most things, either craft foam like this or the foam pads. I'm just taking some time to get that title in place. And I'm not going to add a huge amount more once I've got those flowers and butterflies in place. I think it's just a case of a couple more stickers and I'm pretty much done. So again, just adding some foam behind those photos to create some more dimension, just make sure they kind of stand off the page a bit. I've tried to curl the edges slightly, a bit hard when I was trying to use my nail, they started bending in front instead of curling, but got there in the end. And I'm just adding a little bit of foam in between the layers as well there, just for a bit more dimension. And then with these butterflies, I'm only going to stick the centre of the bodies down. This is something I always do with butterflies. It just means that the wings are flapping free and it kind of looks like they've just landed on your page as opposed to being kind of a stuck-on embellishment. Just makes them look really realistic and I love the effect that has. So I've stuck those ones down the centre. I'm also sticking a couple on the frames as well. Just going through that floral ephemera pack now to see if there's anything else. I wanted kind of some leaf sprigs or something, but I didn't want anything too large, just something little. So I found these couple of bits here, they're kind of like buds or something, I presume, and I've just used those, again matching colours for this collection. And then this sticker sheet here is from the Daydream collection. So like I said, I didn't buy much of these days. I got, I think, 4 patterned papers, the butterflies, the flowers, and that was it really. So yeah, not a lot, but enough that I was happy that I could create this layout with, and I've got a few extra bits obviously. I knew with this floral ephemera pack I would never use the whole thing on one layout, which is why I bought a few extra papers, just so that I've got something coordinating so that I can use the rest of that pack on another layout. I've decided I want to add a couple more of those flowers kind of opposite diagonally through my photos. So I've just cut some of those minty kind of coloured ones, and that's because in the photos, you can't really see it here, but hopefully you'll see it in the close-ups. The top part of my little boy's jumper is white and minty green, so I thought it'd be nice to bring in a bit more of that mint colour. I'm just going to stick a couple of those, and again I've cut that white border off just to keep it consistent. So I've got those raised up on foam pads like the other one, and then at this point I couldn't decide if I was done or not, and I just felt a bit bugged by the edge of my page, and I almost felt like it just looked and felt unfinished, and I really didn't want to get my sewing machine out and stitch around the edge. I just really couldn't be bothered really, if I'm being completely honest, but I felt like the page needed something. So I just had a quick look at the pattern papers that I bought and decided on this ombre one again. I'm going to add this as a frame to the page, and this is something I used to do a lot, and I've kind of tried to move away from it because I found I was doing it on every single page, but I just felt like this one needed something to finish that outside edge off. So I've gutted the centerpiece so I can use that on another layout, and then I'm using double-sided tape. And you won't see on camera because I was trying not to do it. Once I've got this stuck in place, I don't distress the edges of my white background at all. Again, that's something that I would normally always do, but I was just trying to have a play with doing things that are a little bit out of my comfort zone and not doing the things I always do, if that makes any sense at all. So I didn't distress the edges. And then when I came to take photos of it this morning, it was really bugging me. So you'll notice in the photos that the edges have been distressed because I couldn't not do it. It was really bugging me, and again, just looked unfinished. And I don't know why I was trying to do things the opposite way to what I normally do. I don't know why I felt the need to do that. But I wasn't happy with it and I didn't like it. So I did distress the edges and I tore them up a bit and bent them back, and I was much happier with the layout. So I don't know why I was trying to force myself to do things I wouldn't normally do, or to prevent myself from doing things I like to do. It just didn't work. So I did go back and distress that, and you'll see in the close-ups. And I just finished the page off with a few more of those Maggie's Dream sequins, and just scattering a few, sort of cascading down the centre of that page and amongst the butterflies and my title. And that is my layout complete. So I'm just going to give you a bit of a close-up before we go into the photos. But thank you very much for watching today. I hope you've enjoyed this layout. I will pop a couple of links in the description box for you. One to the Papermaze store, which is where I buy most of my supplies, if not all of them, in the UK, and also to Spiegel Mum Scraps, where this beautiful sequin mix is from. And that Spiegel Mum link will get you a 15% discount at checkout as well, so keep that one handy. But thank you again for joining me. I will leave you the rest of the close-ups, and I'll see you next time.